Dobry wieczór. Bardzo serdecznie witam Państwa w imieniu Fundacji Instytut Architektury. Nazywam się Marta Karpińska i także w imieniu naszych gospodarzy Goethe Institut Krakau, z którymi już od paru lat mamy wielką przyjemność prowadzić cykl spotkań Elementy Architektury i głównym tematem tegorocznej edycji jest samoorganizacja i dzisiaj będziemy rozmawiać o bardzo ciekawym przypadku samoorganizacji z Berlina. Now let me switch into English for the sake of our guest, Danielą Brahm, and let me just briefly introduce her. Danielą Brahm is a visual artist based in Berlin. In 2004, she initiated the ExRotaprint project in Berlin-Wedding with artist Les Schlieser. In 2007, she co-founded the non-profit organization ExRotaprint GmbH. And as of today, she's one of its managing partners. In 2018-2019, she was a visiting professor of spatial strategies at the Weissensee Kunsthochschule in Berlin. Danielą Brahm is a member of the Stadtneudenken initiative and the Roundtable on Land and Real Estate Policy in Berlin, and has been a member of the board of the Stadtbodenstiftung Berlin since 2020. And today, Danielą Brahm will tell us a fascinating story of ExRotaprint, and what is remarkable about this story, it is the fact that it could be just another sad story of gentrification and privatization of common goods, and it didn't happen even though the all components of such a story was present. We had this huge post-industrial complex, we had various tenants, we had city with huge financial problems that drove the municipality of Berlin to put the whole place for sale, and we all too familiar with what happens usually, right? Some rich guys buy the place, the tenants are thrown out, and then the new owner of the new owners refurbish the place into something fancy and then rent or sell the place to some other well-off people or investors, whatever. And it didn't happen this time. And Danielą Brahm will explain to us what went right this time and how it was possible that, you know, the tenants, the regular people, no rich ones, just became the owner of 10,000 square meters of the great architectural space in Wedding, northwest Berlin. And yes, this is a fascinating story, and feel free to ask Danielą Brahm after the talk anything. We save some time for Q&A section, so with no further delay, I bring you Danielą Brahm. Daniela, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you very much for the invitation and also for the introduction. Everything went right and wrong for the capitalists. So we are non-profit development for work, art, and community. This is the title, and it's developed out of a tenants initiative. So we were the local tenants on site. And we were thinking so much about ownership that it became like a very main pillar of our development, how we can prevent all the bad parts of ownership and how we can profit from all the good parts of ownership. And I will describe it how we developed our structure. But the important thing is that we simply not only set up a collective ownership, but it's such a complex structure that we don't think about ownership anymore. And this is why we had this slogan here, the ownership, here the concept of ownership is abstracted until it disappears. And this is the very beginning. In 2000, in the year 2000, that's 23 years ago already, I moved in this part of the former ExRotaprint complex. This is just one building of 11. And we were so fascinated by the architecture that we immediately entered the roof and took this photo. Just it was a kind of taking over the property. So this picture kind of shows already into the future, and we didn't know it at that time. We really thought, like, why nobody really thought about this architecture before? Why is it in this state of decay and nothing is written about it, and you hardly know the architect, and so it was really, we were the kind of typical pioneers in this wedding district. That's the stories, like the creatives start a process, and in the end they are the first ones who have to leave. We kind of came into this gap, and we saw the potentials, and we were able to simply rent 2 stories in this building. It was rented out by the district, the administration of the district of Wedding at the time, because the ExRotaprint company vanished completely. They went bankrupt, and because of the fact that before they went bankrupt, the city of Berlin had put a lot of money into the company, maybe to rescue it. So in return, after the complete end, after the bankruptcy, the Berlin city got the whole premises, the ownership of the whole premises. And this is why the district rented out simply spaces, and but they had no longer concept for it. Just some keys about the some key informations. So this is the Berlin Wedding District. Now it's part of Berlin Center, so Berlin Mitte. So it's northwest, but it's very central still. It's not about one building. The one building that I've been showing was this one here. And the whole project was not about finding a solution for this one building, but for the whole thing. And that really was something that also took us some breath, kind of, because we have to dare to do this. It's 11 buildings from the 50s and from around 1900, so the typical Berlin Wilhelminian style buildings, courtyard buildings, this kind of, but all like work buildings. So it's not about apartments or living. It's the whole premises is about work. And then we have all these 50s buildings here, early 50s, and then mid and late 50s, mid 50s, that were added after the Second World War, when the premises was also heavily destroyed. It's Berlin, you know what happened in the Second World War. So we have this combination of 50s and like the typical Berlin Gründerzeit around 1900. 1989, this was the bankruptcy of the ExRotaprint premises. ExRotaprint produced printing machines. We named ourselves ExRotaprint because it's also a heritage that we took over and that we appreciated a lot, that the way they laid out this complex, and we wanted we feel that we follow up there. It's in '91. It was listed as a historic monument, and the district who was in charge at the time to whatever do with this, they were really furious, kind of, because suddenly they didn't own only an old and rotten factory, but also a listed monument. And so, and in this 16 years here between, this is when step by step new people moved in, us and some others, but it was never completely rented out. It was really, a lot of space was empty. And we set up, in these years, we set up the new project, and our goals, just to have it always in mind, were really to, how can we really stop speculation at this location? How can we do it differently from what the city does? And how can we really erase simply the possibility to sell it on, and to foster social diversity? That means how can we really not make it only a location for one group of people, only for artists, or usually these kind of things happens, but really to have as much different people on one location as possible, and as much as makes sense to the district. So just to give you some images, this is now how after renovation a couple of years ago, this building looks now. And you see the courtyard with this older part of the buildings that have been plastered white in the 50s to make it all into one union with these 50s structures, to unify it. Yeah, that's a quite good trick. And yeah, we have to the street these kind of 50 structures, and very different kind of spaces, big ones in the basements, in the ground floors, and yeah, smaller offices like up here. Sometimes it's only 20 square meters. So it's very different kind of spaces, but all with a lot of windows. And this is seen from the street. Here you see also that we did a little, we add a little rooftop here when we did the renovation of the roof. And meanwhile, we already have renovated this one here. So this is a photograph from 2012. But why did we do all this? This is because the city of Berlin is quite mad. I don't know if you know this American magazine Mad. It looks exactly like this. And it's a satire magazine, and they always have this cover. And I did a couple of drawings on Berlin real estate policy, especially, just with Mad covers. Berlin decided in the beginning of like 2000, 2002, decided to sell all properties that were owned by the city and that the city doesn't need to the highest bid. Really to throw real estate and premises on the market in the hope of finding investors that pay, whoever pays the most get it. And the reason behind that was that Berlin was really heavily in debt, and it's a long story. This is the special situation of Berlin because of the divided city and a not well-managed east part, a very poor west part, because it was always an island, not a lot of taxpayers in Berlin, you know. And then there was a huge bank scandal that the politicians did really speculate with real estate already in the 90s, and then the city-owned bank was bankrupt. And then all the other states of Berlin, you know, Berlin is a federal state out of 16 smaller states, and the others said like, we want Berlin to make money now, because if not, we always have to transfer our money to Berlin. And there was a pressure, and the city decided to sell all the properties. That was a huge change for the city that up to now has such a deep effect that that almost everybody would love to roll it back, but it's impossible. So the former Rotaprint premises was immediately on the market. It was like an auction, you know, you had to bid for it, and we got to know it because it was simply on their website. You know, the city of Berlin set up this Berlin Real Estate Fund. That's a city-owned company, and they were in charge to sell. And we approached them as like this small renters initiative, and we said like, okay, we want to buy this. Let's negotiate. And because this whole strategy just started, they were kind of, oh my God, we are waiting for the big investors, but not for the renters to come. And so here, this guy here has this Berlin TV tower on the top. And so they really reacted like, oh my God, this will never work out. This takes years, and in the end they won't get the money together or something. They were really like keeping us away from negotiating, but we did negotiate. But this wasn't the only problem that we were having, because we were also having problems among ourselves. Because you have to imagine, we simply happened to be on this location. This was a very diverse group of people that didn't gather because we want to do a project together. We were just simply, we happened to be on the same location, and we formed in the first place an association of tenants. This was our first platform, and we discussed our possibilities, but it wasn't that it's this lucky multitude, like people who come together, that they think like, oh, we all fight for one goal. But it turned out that it's more like this, you know, that people like have their own perspectives in mind, think about, I will be lucky to buy my workshop, and the rest I don't care, and maybe I'm once in my life at the right place and can make a good deal and have some money for when I'm old or something. You know, all these things plop up as soon as you vision. It was in the very early beginning, and we didn't had it at the time. You know, it was just the idea of private ownership that made all these things in the heads of the people. You know, and we knew we will never make it when we do it like this. When we fall apart in individual perspectives and do not find really like one idea that we all pursue together. And one other thing is that as soon as then, when the fantasies maybe become a bit smaller, when you start to talk about money, how much this is gonna cost to buy it, and then especially how much it's gonna cost to do all the renovation. And then it easily happens that a lot of people just disappear, because it's just like, I mean, the group just becomes smaller, because then it's suddenly, I won't make a personal profit, but I'm going to take a lot of responsibility. Why should I do this? And we have to always keep in mind, this is a workspace, so people come to the premises to work, and then they leave again in the evening, they work somewhere else. They live somewhere else, and that also makes a difference. So people say like, oh, I have so much to do, I have my business here, I have employed people, I can't care about another project. So this was the situation. But this is the day when an Icelandic investment fund was announced to visit the premises, because the city of Berlin, as I said already, they wanted to keep us out of the negotiations. And not only that, they also started to negotiate with an Icelandic kind of hedge fund to sell not only the Rotaprint premises, but 50 premises spread all over in Berlin to one like major fund. And we were really, really furious, because we were still thought we are the ones who are going to buy it, and we were still in negotiations. And we knew that he going to visit, and we said like, okay, now we showed our interest, and we really painted this huge banner in the courtyard, and we gathered underneath, and we are this huge mixture of people, with so many people with obviously an migrational background. It's part of our reality on the premises, but it's not as such. It's just a moment where the school, the German classes that we have on the premises, they just had, the German classes were just finished, and they all joined us. They probably even didn't know exactly for what, so, but it made really a proper photograph that made clear, okay, this should be a premises for a lot of different people, a lot of people that make up the district Wedding, because we have a lot of migration in Wedding, and we have a lot of rather poor people in Wedding. It's a former working class district, so it pretty much mirrors that. And we thought, okay, this Icelandic guy will probably speak English, so we wrote this here. There is no profit to be made here, and that was not only for somebody else, but it was also for us, because we knew to buy it is one thing, but really we already started to calculate the costs of the renovation, and this was so clear for ourselves that if we want to stay there with rather low rents, rents that are appropriate for us, there will be no profit. Then we are happy. We will be happy to pay with the rents, the renovation, but there will be no private profit to go elsewhere. If not, this would mean a major rise of rents, and that's something that is up to now in our project, like makes up the financial part of our project. Just to explain it to you, Baudenkmal Rotaprint, that means listed building Rotaprint. That's it's an architectural monument, the whole premises, and that's just to remind us that it also needs a special treatment as a historic monument. So, but how do you do it to withdraw land from the market? How does it work to stop speculation? And of course there are different possibilities, but what we decided for is exactly this, or that's what we developed for us. It might be a bit dry, but in fact it's not dry at all. I think we decided for 2 contracts for us to guide the development of the project in the direction that we need. And the one is a heritable building right. That's in German it's an Erbbaurecht. It's a long-term lease that has defined goals written in the contract. So we lease the land for 99 years, and we have defined goals for what we lease it and for what we rent it out. And so with the heritable building right, we have like directed it in this direction, that we have the use of the land has a defined goal, and the other contract is the common public interest or the non-profit status. That is, ExRotaprint itself is a company. That's what is so weird. This GmbH, which is the German thing for a non-for-profit limited liability company, and that's what we founded as tenants. And within a not-for-profit company, you have to define goals for what you want to spend your money on, like this surplus out of the rents. We are still renters. We make money by renting out to ourselves, and we have to put the money into the goals of the company, and that's and so this money flow is also directed doesn't go into private pockets or somewhere. It goes. I'm going to explain it more in detail. First, the heritable building right. That's you have to imagine we did the negotiations with the city, and we prepared everything, and we said to the city, okay, now we have the purchase contract, but we won't buy ourselves. We said we put in two foundations that bought the premises. That was the first step. And these two foundations, they keep their hands on the land. They will never sell the land again. We got to know them. We didn't found them. In the whole process, we made a contact with them, and we thought like this is the right partner for us to really separate the ownership into land and buildings. And after the purchase from the city, the same day we signed a 99-year heritable building right with the foundations. So that means the foundations own the land now, but ExRotaprint owns the buildings and has the right for 99 years to use the land. And this is really a split of ownership with the only reason, that's really to emphasize, with the only reason to have a partner in that always will deny to sell the premises. So we do everything on the premises. We are completely responsible for everything, but we can't sell it. And that's a kind of limitation that we put to ourselves, to our own project, because we thought when we have already in the very beginning these arguments about private property was what will happen in 10 years or 20 years when people want to leave and they said like, oh, I want to have my part now or something. So this is why we decided for this. So we are in an ownership-like position, but we can't sell the property because underneath are the foundations and they will never agree to sell the land. And in this contract, in the heritable building right, there is also defined that we rent out in equal parts to work, art and community. That's that our mixture will be alive, the mixture of tenants will be alive for 99 years. I mean, it's also interesting to imagine what will happen in such a long time. And of course, to prevent displacement or gentrification. Of course, we are a renters project, and of course we want to keep the people who are there. just to make it a bit more visible, so ExRotaprint owns the 11 buildings, and this Stiftung Trias and the Stiftung Edith Marion, it happened that these are two foundations. It's not necessarily two foundations, so they wanted to work together, and this Stiftung Trias was much too small at that time to do it on their own, and so they joined. But it's very important that the role of the foundations is really to keep the hand, it's like to guard the land. It's not to finance anything. It's more the other way around, that in the first place they bought the premises, but for 99 years they get every year a lease from us. And in the long run, it's really a profit to them. So, because, yeah, we pay it off probably 10 or 20 times, easily, probably 20 times in this time. The premises was very cheap. We are talking about something that was sold in Berlin in 2007, so the prices were really like hit the bottom. And this was also convincing the foundations to work with us, because A, it wasn't expensive, and B, it was clear that the property will raise in value quickly, and it did. And in a way, the cheaper you buy, the higher is the risk that it's going to be sold again, because you can make in a short time so much profit. And that was also why we decided we have to kind of secure the land, because we would have had arguments about selling it further. That was foreseeable. So we decided for this, and this is ExRotaprint, non-for-profit limited liability company, founded by tenants, not by all of the tenants that were on the site. It was free choice who wanted to join and who not. And this is due to this mixture on the premises, and some people couldn't imagine to take part actively. Some didn't want to, out of time reasons. Some thought like, oh, I don't want to be part of a non-for-profit. What's that? I'm a business. I don't know. So there were really different reasons, but there were some people who said like, oh no, I actively want to take part, and we founded the company, and we do everything. Like we are responsible for renting it out, for doing the financing of everything, also of the renovation. So we took up mortgages, and we have all the heavy stuff we do. And our non-for-profit goals, as I said before, when you have a non-for-profit, you have tax reduction, and for that you are obliged to fulfill some like accepted non-for-profit goals. And we decided for these goals, the preservation of the historically listed site. So this Baudenkmal, this historic monument, needed a lot of attention. We knew that we're going to put money into it over at least 30 years. And this is because it's an official listed building. It was agreed that this is a non-for-profit goal. And it's also a trick, so our income by rents like goes directly into renovation of the building. And we have a second non-for-profit goal, that's to support art and culture, and that's, one could say, easy in comparison. So we can do. I mean, it's also not that much money that we put in that. We put much more into the renovation, but we have reduced prices for studio spaces, and we have we support some events or so things that in the cultural field. And that's maybe a bit more interesting for the future when the architecture is more or less consolidated and doesn't need so much attention anymore. Then we can put more money into arts and culture. The money comes from out of the rents, so we all stay renters and we pay rents, and really still quite low rents, but that's the capital we can invest, and upon the rest, and we took out a mortgage and everything, so, and we don't rely on governmental aid. So there's no funding from the city of Berlin or from special other entities. So because we started in an era at a time when Berlin was bankrupt, and every politician who said to us, if you're going to do this, you have to do it on your own. We won't bring any money. So, and this is in kind of in our DNA that we have to pay it on ourselves. Because, sorry, yeah, and just to make it maybe a bit more easy, or it doesn't look easy, that's the wrong word. It's so the main thing is, the main decision maker is this ExRotaprint non-for-profit limited company, founded by the renters on site, and all the leading decisions for the project development are taken among us, among these people, and it has only 11 partners with voting power. These were the people that wanted to be actively take part. At the time when we founded it, we had 40 rental party, 40 tenants. Now we have 110, so it's much more. So it's more or less a small part of it, but it's the active part, and those who, when it comes to responsibility, doesn't go out of the picture, don't go out of the picture. So, but the special thing is these 11 partners with voting power are 10 individual tenants, like me, and others who decided I'm actively part of it. And the 11th partner is this association. It's the association that we founded in the first place when we started to negotiate for the premises, and we thought like we should have the association of all renters as an open platform for everybody to participate, to whoever shows up and is interesting, without a hurdle, to become a partner. It's a more complicated process, and to become a member of an association, it's just easy. And the association has 3 board members, and so when we all come together, we are 13 people. Deciding on everything. The association itself does also more community work and networking on the compound, like some more easy and nice things to gather, and it's a possibility that the association is simply a possibility to join the process, and the partners appoint the managing partners. This is Les and me. We are the managing partners, so we do it. It's a job. And we have the project development, the financing, the renting out and everything. So we kind of execute the decisions made within the company. We do the executive part, and we have 2 employed people. One is also a renter who decided to do all the contract things with the rents and the bills and this thing. He does it, and we have 2 freelance who do smaller things, like we have guest apartments, we have a project space, and they organize this, and so different kind of responsibilities. And the very important thing is because the building now, I mean, it's years now, but we are still doing renovations and reconstructions on the premises, and so Les and me, we join with 2 architects, and we build this planning team, and we meet every week to work on this process of gradual renovation of the premises, the refurbishment and everything. So we are pretty. We did a lot already. Sometimes it feels that we turned it over once completely. We had, of course, because we have building from the 50s, we had a lot of asbestos on the premises that had to be, like here, like the roofs, that had to be dismantled, and we had a lot of really bad concrete works to restore the facades and these concrete buildings. A lot of windows, but also I mean all the facades and roofs and in the interior. It's also like sometimes it's a mess, but we do it step by step and house by house. So not all the people are always involved, We have spent already 7 million on just renovating. That's, I mean, it's 12 years now, but it's really a lot. And a lot of, we have a mortgage, but a lot of the money is just also like every year, like the surplus of the rents is directly invested. So it goes from hand to mouth. This is this nice tower renovated. For example, I think the whole neighborhood thought like, now after 1.5 years of scaffolding, maybe it looks nice afterwards, but it looks exactly the same it looked before. For who doesn't know, but it's, of course, now it's everything sharp and the concrete doesn't fall off the facade anymore, and the windows are not rusty anymore and everything, so everything is done, but like the character of the building is exactly the same, and that's what we wanted to achieve. We actually also, for the way we do the renovation of the listed monument, we also got an award by the city of Berlin. For whom? That's when I wrote this, I thought like, why didn't I write with whom? I already explained with whom. That not all people became active. A lot of people just decided I want to stay renter. I pay my rent and I don't involve into the project. This is why it's for whom, because we always thought a lot about also those people who don't actively work for their rights, kind of, but we want to also really embrace and make the premise also open to them. You know, it's a for whom. We think also for others, because we have, for example, we have this concept, work, art, community. So 1/3 of the space goes to local businesses, 1/3 of the space goes to arts and culture, like studios, musicians, artists, graphic designers, and 1/3 of the space goes to social institutions or community outreach organizations, NGOs, and there are so many different reasons for people not to involve. For example, the social outreach organizations, they said like, oh, we can't become a member because we get funding from official institutions, and if there will turn out any conflict or something, this might ruin our setup and things. So it's not only out of laziness or being not interested, you know, but to have these social institutions on the compound is so much important for ExRotaprint that we thought like, no, we prepare the space, they should be here, you know, because they include the neighborhood, they offer things for the neighborhood, and the businesses that some of them said like, oh, we have no time for also running or being a part of ExRotaprint, but they have employed people in a district where a lot of people are unemployed, or you know, and a lot of a former factory disappeared with a lot of employed people, and now we have employment again. So it's important in the district, and we just thought like, no, we want to have all this in, and not to think only about me, myself as an artist. You could easily think like, oh, we do everything for artists. But that wasn't in our interest. We wanted to really have these different things. And that's in the contract, in the heritable building right, equal part to business, community outreach organizations and creatives, no displacement. And this commitment lasts over 99 years. I mean, this is a construction you can't think, kind of, but it's not. It doesn't only apply to us now in the still beginning phases, but also to the future generations to fulfill this 3 parts. Just to give you some images, yeah, that's the typical young designers, the artists. For a while, we had an exhibition space, but it wasn't permanent. We have different kind of workshops, like they do interior design and furniture, and they do only frames for artists and museums. We have the typical Berlin-based Berlin wedding electrician company, you know, this kind of here. So it's so funny to have these people. We have this German classes for migrants, and which is actually in the district, a lot of people know ExRotaprint because of such a thing. Because there's so many people somebody in the family went to ExRotaprint to have German classes, whereas they didn't went to ExRotaprint. They went to Lernstadt, which is the name for them, but they join it in their head. It's one. And we also have advice. So there's one company, Wendepunkt. They do advice for newcomers in Berlin, also for refugees, for long-term unemployed people, and so all these things really open ExRotaprint very much to the district. And we have companies, of course, also companies that set up their own little fabrication line. They produce a shelf system, and they sell it like immediately from our compound via internet to the people. So it's very, very different kind of people. You see it also by the images. Yeah, we have this very nice project space where daily you can rent it on a daily basis for whatever kind of conferences or workshops or seminars, and so there are also like people from the outside coming only for a couple of days or for one day. And this, I think, it gives you maybe a feeling for this. On this premises, there are really a lot of very different people with different backgrounds, different languages, different visions in life, and this kind of, and this is what's interesting to me. Apart from having really solved the speculation problem. I think this mixture is the very interesting part, because it's right the opposite of segregation. It's just really to bring it together, and that people see each other, maybe even more, collaborate. Of course, this happens, but the first step is really to tolerate just these very different situations in life. And when you have this very big location with 10,000 square meters, this is then where it turns out to make sense, because it's as big that you really can fulfill a mixture. You know, you can create this mixture. This is the final picture for ExRotaprint. I have something more than clear-cut edges against speculation. That was on our that was on our scaffolding when we did the renovation of this tower. Because the city of Berlin, just to add this to make the picture complete, the city of Berlin, of course, didn't act as we did, like with this very clear-cut edge against clear-cut position against speculation. The Berlin land policy did speculate. Speculation was a part of it in the 90s, and then in the years 2000, there was a speculation idea, as I described already. And again, back to the mad comic, there was really a naive calculation behind it, because you have to imagine Berlin sold land in 10 years for about 2 billion euros. They made 2 billion out of it. Meanwhile, every year they were paying 2 billion on interest for debt that they were already having. So every money they were earning, it was just like immediately away anyway. So it didn't help. It didn't help. And not only this, it didn't help to make money. They sold everything when the land value, this is about the average, the land value, the purchase value for Berlin building land over the years. And this is the time when exactly here we bought ExRotaprint. and the city of Berlin sold the most of the land. So they made that little money. And here Berlin started to grow. So there were a lot of people coming to Berlin, and much more flats and living possibilities were heavily in need, but they weren't there, and the land was sold to build some. And this is a dilemma that was created simply. And then, yeah, like in every city, with this very low interests on the financial market, the Berlin land value just raised so rapidly that now it's here. This is only a Corona gap. You know, this is the explanation for this. And so here, the city of Berlin started to think about, oh, maybe it was wrong, but the land was sold. You know, the attractive land was sold, and here they started to buy back from private. And so it's just like, I mean, it breaks my heart, just like to know, that so much money was kind of wasted. Okay, but now we have this situation in Berlin that everything turned into its opposite. Berlin was the city of cheap space, and now it's a city of expensive space, like either rents or building land or whatever. So, and we always said, like, I mean, since we did it, what we did at ExRotaprint, we always said, like, why don't you do it as a city yourself? We don't need the foundations that own the land at ExRotaprint. In a way, we don't need it because we can say, like, the municipality can own the land itself and can make a heritable building right with the initiatives or with the building, with the owner of the buildings, you know, and then to have, then the municipality will always own, like, the land and has, even though maybe after 99 years, or but it's not forever sold, you know. You still have a contract with the those who have the heritable building right, and this role the municipality can play with its own land, and that would be a completely different land strategy. And Berlin, of course, thinks about it. They decided for keeping now the land and giving heritable building rights, and but of course it's on a very small scale because there's not so much happening anyways, because they don't have so much land that is available. But just to make it very clear, this kind of like the strategy, how you deal with land, the municipality can play a much more active role than simply selling it and then let a private person do it, but really with dividing the ownership and keeping the land in the hands of the communal part. Then you would have in the long run much more possibilities. And that's what we bring into the discussion, that we need a Berlin land trust. You know, the foundations that we work at ExRotaprint with, they are a private land trust, one could say. They own the land and we own the buildings. But the municipality are like the city of Berlin. I don't know if you can recognize that this is the shape of Berlin. Like, as a Berliner, you would easily recognize it, and that would mean like Berlin keeps the land and then have the heritable building rights, and you would need an entity like the Berlin Land Trust that is in charge for the land and for these kind of contracts. That's something that we try heavily to put in to bring into the political discussion. There is a beginning of it, but of course it's not really it's not really there. You see that I'm always a little bit like a land policy activist. That's why that's why I bring it here too, because I think it's like out of ExRotaprint. You know, what do you do with it? Apart from just having solved the situation on a very local spot, you know, you want to also, what can you learn in the bigger picture from it? And I think that would be a thing like this. But what do you do now when you have an initiative that starts now? We, with ExRotaprint, we started when the land value was so very low. That was kind of easy. I mean, it wasn't easy at all, but it was cheap. But what is when you start now and everything is so expensive? And that's the huge discussion right now that's in Berlin, that these are collaborative agreements with the municipality, that the initiatives set up a collaborative process with the municipality to develop a project. That's something that's like the opposite of what we did with ExRotaprint. To us, they said like, you buy it and you do it on your own. Today, you can't say buy it because it's so expensive. And because of this, the municipality and some like, the administration takes an active role into the project development. And we have 2 model projects right now in Berlin. And this one is probably the most famous one. It's Haus der Statistik. It's next to Alexanderplatz. It's a location with it's right next to the tower of Alexanderplatz. It's the highest one of the highest land values in Berlin. Of course, it would be so expensive to buy it. Of course, they can't buy it. Not an initiative that wants to create space for people like you and us. They would be never able to buy such a expensive land, and they set up a really complex process with 5 partners, and and 4 of the partners are kind of official out of the official city administration, out of the Berlin Senate, out of the district, out of the it's a city-owned housing corporation, and it's the follow-up of the company, the real estate company that sold the plotted ExRotaprint, which is now a company, city-owned company that is in charge to develop city-owned land. And the very important part, of course, is this. This is why I wrote it bold. It's only one part of this collaboration of corporation. No. And that's a corporation, and that's the civic part. So this is an initiative that has founded a corporation, and they play the civic part, and they started the whole process. So it's their effort and their also success that this huge plot of land, it's a former GDR building for statistics from the, I think, late 60s, early 70s, that this becomes a joint process where all of them become space. They get space for their administration. They become space for housing. They become space for a new mayor building, a new Rathaus, and the Zusammenkunft Berlin EG. They become space. They will get space for what the initiative wants to pursue, which is for education, for arts, for social institutions, and these kind of things. It's on a very good way, but it's not yet in really on it. The financing of the whole thing is still under negotiation. It's really tough. It's after years. Although it's already under reconstruction, so they do refurbishment here of this part already. So, and they are already thinking about moving in, but it's not yet clear about how much it's gonna cost. So it's so much work and so much risk to push through one of these projects, because simply the situation is so dense now, and usually if there wouldn't exist such a big political will to kind of make it happen, it wouldn't. There would be no possibility to get it. But if they will make it, I mean, it will be really a great thing to have, like, right next to Alexanderplatz, a thing that is not dominated by the typical capitalist things, by shopping or whatever, you know. The other thing is, just to make it short, it's comparable. It's the Dragoner Areal. It's another initiative that tries. It's a second model project right now in Berlin. The same thing, a collaborative agreement with the municipality, with different parts of the municipality, and with the initiatives, and having two entities here. And they are also developing in Kreuzberg a project together. And the last thing in Berlin is the private non-profit land trusts, as I described already, the Stiftung Trias and the Stiftung Edith Marion, the ones who own the land with us at ExRotaprint. Just to give you an idea of what you can, how creative you can deal with land ownership. To me, this example makes it always so visible that the Foundation Edith Marion is a private land trust against speculation, will never sell land again. And they bought in Berlin Neukölln this really huge property, and then they have no interest to own it, to develop it themselves, and so they cut it into pieces and have these 4 parts. And they gave heritable building right to each of them to develop their special project on it. And so they have contracts, and they these, like the Global Village Association or the Transform Corporation, they have concepts for the buildings. It's either refurbishment or building new. It's a mixture here, and they develop. I think it's a picture for how you can develop a city. It's along the idea of what will happen within the buildings. It's not about the idea of ownership, who owns it, who makes the profit with it, but it's about really designing who uses the space and who can profit from that there is this kind of building and this kind of use, you know, and the offers that then they do. I mean, this is Global Village. These are a lot of NGOs in it with, any kind of global perspective, and these are more social institutions, and this is all about circular economy, this building. And this, I have to admit, is not yet so clear which direction it's going to go. It's a bit behind the others. I think it makes very clear that it's the property is not the subject, but the use of the property is the subject, and this really creates city for the good, I guess. And this is what we want to do with the Stadtbodenstiftung also. I'm actually not on the board. That was maybe a translation mistake, because I'm part of the curatorium of the Stadtbodenstiftung, so I'm not so active, because at one point we thought, like, why is there a foundation, Edith Marion, that is a Swiss foundation owning property in Berlin? That's nice that they do it, but they are from Switzerland. Why don't we have an own foundation in Berlin that does the same job? And that's there's and the foundation of the of this Stadtbodenstiftung, which city land foundation. This is a very young thing. It doesn't yet own any property. There are some properties under negotiations, but so far it was quite difficult, and so the first one is still has still to happen. But the idea of the Stadtbodenstiftung is exactly to do this, to own the land and to let the tenants, whatever, create a corporation or an association or whatever, and to run the building and to own the building and to have a heritable building right. This is of course a difficult time to start this because everything is so expensive, and it's not a foundation that starts with a great donor who has put a lot of money in it, but it's a foundation that starts out of the idea and out of an initiative as well. So it's gonna take a while, but I think it's gonna happen that step by step there will be some land within this trust. So that was it.
Thank you, Daniela. This was fascinating and very inspiring lecture, and feel free to ask any questions. I invite you to ask Daniela anything. I've got a lot of questions, but with every slide you answered some of my questions. But I think my reflection is that it was great to show how not to be gentrified and at the same time not to be someone and become someone who gentrificate also. So it is great, and and I think when you see it from the perspective of 2 decades, right? It seems like a beautiful story, and maybe using some windows of opportunity of the low prices. But I'm wondering whether, with all the tools you described, maybe. It is always tough times to start project like this, right? So, but it's great that there are also these new tools. I mean, maybe the tools of using some law like this foundation you cooperated with. So maybe this is some kind of putting the foot between the floor with this dense market-oriented reality, right? So yeah, this is my reflection, and it's great to know that you also came up with the idea of creating this kind of foundation, and I think it gives us a lot of thought to what to do with our situation and with our reality. Do you have any?
So, what was, in your opinion, the biggest problem during those 20 years process of creating this kind of place on a sociological level? I mean, it was the huge problem with responsibility of people, or with trust, or with another important aspects of social living, which is a key to start this kind of initiative. Because I mean, I try to understand this project in our local level, and I think we have in Poland some kind of the lack of trust between people and between people and government. So I think it could be the problem to start this kind of initiative, because of in long term it could be the problem, not only because I cannot earn money in this kind of project, but also I don't trust other people who will do something in that place. So in your opinion, what was the biggest problem during those 20 years on this level of communication or meeting the people and so on and so forth?
Still, although we have we were facing so many financial responsibility meanwhile, but I think still the very beginning was the most complicated part among the people. That's what I described with this, when the idea of private property came into into the heads of people. So that was still, this is why we always emphasize so much, you have to make like a huge barrier against these, the idea of profit, because that would have, I'm so sure that would have ruined our project if we wouldn't have really have this barrier so fixed, so it can't be sold. And only by this idea is completely out. And we have, it was really like the struggle to bring it on a non-for-profit path and not to make individual ownership. Or so that was also personally, it was really a horror because people were fighting and bringing ideas like, oh, I know somebody from Hamburg that would probably invest money in it, and then we started, oh my God, if people bring money from somewhere, these people gonna control it in the end, you know, and then we are all, we don't have it in our hands anymore, and these kind of things. So this was really, and also then this, at that time there was also, because we are a business, so there's a lot of small businesses on the premises, and of course there were people who said like, oh, I can do the managing part because I run a small business anyways, I can do it. And you really felt like this, so everybody thought there was just too many things that were obviously just thinking about their own thing. Yeah, that was really the biggest difficulties, and this is why we really worked so hard on the process to find a way to cut this off. And we have to imagine we are a non-for-profit, and that means those who became partner, we all have put a little bit of money in it, so about 3,000 euros. It's not so much, but we needed, in the beginning, we needed some money to start. But you don't get any money in return. You get your 3,000 euros back when you leave, but you get no interest on it. You don't own a part of the buildings or something, because we are a non-for-profit. So it was really a commitment to say like, okay, we do it because we want to run the thing, not because we want to have the profits of ownership. Every individual who really joined the process actively, like, know that we want to run it and we want to achieve cheap rents. That's also a profit, of course, for all of us. But we don't have the profits of ownership. And yeah, I think so around us, all the premises that have been sold as cheap as ExRotaprint, in the same years they have been sold again once or twice or 3 times, making 10 times profit each time. And so really like, and we are the only ones that didn't happen. And that's, yeah, but it was the most complicated thing to push this through. And it was what is the German word, Verzicht, to step back and also to say, like, me personally, to say like, okay, I won't become a millionaire. I mean, when we bought it from the city, they didn't expect us to do a non-profit thing. So they would have sold us. The price was fixed. They were sort of, hey, you don't buy it. It's so cheap. You don't buy it yourself. Now a foundation buys it. What's up with you? It was just like, but it was, and you also have to imagine we were all not professionals. And I'm a visual artist, and you need really a productive, collaborative situation to manage all this, especially when you're not a professional. You have to learn so many things. You need time, and I'm sure if we would have lost energy on just having trouble within the group and arguments and things, so then we wouldn't have had the energy to develop it.
Great. And I'm wondering, because you said that these two stiftings just secure the ownership of the land for 99 years. It's a long time. And how about the property of the ExRotaprint buildings? How you make sure that your ancestors will share your philosophy? The people who came after you.
I think the framework is set. So you're a non-for-profit for the sake of arts and culture and listed monuments, and you have a heritable building right, and you have to rent out 1/3 to work art in community. So this is the framework. But within this framework, of course, you can do things different from us. So. This also has to, I think every generation kind of develop an own handwriting of how to fulfill this. I mean, I don't know, now a social thing is German classes maybe it's in 30 years, maybe it's not necessary to have German classes in wedding, I mean, you don't know what then will be necessary. So, but I think the idea is set, and for example, the foundations, they really ask us, do you still do 1/3, 1/3, 1/3? They ask for a list, and so it's just to check, and which is right, because we have a contract, and it's written in the contract, and so from time to time they check it if it's still fulfilled. And but I think it's also good the diversity and not to sell it. This is fixed, and the rest shouldn't be too fixed, because every generation should also do something, I mean, decide on some things and create some things. And
I would like to perhaps maybe comment a little bit, because you play a lot with this notion of ownership. What does it mean, and how to take land out of the speculation? And I'm wondering, because you mentioned that at the time when you established ExRotaprint, it was the time when Berlin authorities were selling out all of the properties. How do you perceive what is their perspective now? Because one can imagine a situation that for example, such land with, say, another former factory or something is run by the city and rented, I don't know, via some foundations also. So is it possible that the city could take out parts of the land and buildings out of speculation? What is the perspective of the, I don't know, municipality? How do you think? Has it changed, or is it still like strongly neoliberal?
No, it has changed. It has changed, definitely. I think almost all representatives of all the political spectrum know that this direction to sell everything was wrong. I mean, there were reasons, but the answer was maybe not the best one, but I think so. But looking back doesn't help. So the city of Berlin turned towards heritable building rights, so they do lease land instead of selling it. But as I said, only very few plots because they don't have so much available anymore. And they think about the Berlin Land Trust. They started something similar, but it's not yet really a bigger strategy because there's no money for really actively buying land to have it in the trust. And so it's, but the discussion about this kind of new land policy is since 2016, 17, and we, for example, we did really a big conference on heritable building rights in 2018. We also did it at ExRotaprint. We invited all the players and also the municipality and politics, and it's on its way. But now, for example, we have a completely different, after the election, we have a change of government, and I can't guarantee that this direction that was taken isn't maybe. The worst thing with land policy is the zigzag. Doing this for 10 years, doing this for 10 years, then you don't get anywhere. It's really horrible. And that's my biggest fear right now. Yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, so I just want to add that thank you for sharing with us this story of Hausder Statistik, because we also hosted Matthias Einhoff from Hausder Statistik, and if you wonder what it was like, we recommend you to see some films from some crazy online tour on the Hausder Statistik on our YouTube channel. I think we added the link under the film from this talk. And Daniela, thank you so much for this fascinating story. And yes, see you next time on the 7th of December, and maybe I give Dorota.
Semen Sirochin will talk about modernist architecture in Ukraine and how it is destroyed and protected during the war now. So feel very welcome on the 7th of December. Right after Santa.